Situational irony happens when a reader's expectation is directly contradicted. In the story Interlopers by Saki, two men who hate each other were on a hunt to kill each other, but when they meet up, they get trapped under a tree and resolve their differences. Interlopers is a good example of situational irony because the men's cooperation will lead to survival, but it leads to their deaths. Rowan, really some clear writing is what I really like about this. A couple of minor errors, though. You want to make sure that you have the complete title of the story whenever you say the story. So it's not Interlopers, it's The Interlopers. So fix that throughout your essay. In the story, Interlopers by Saki, two men who hate each other were on a hunt to kill each other, but when they meet up, they get trapped under a tree and resolve their differences. There's a way to simplify this, and I'll show you how it is. Ready? Two men who hate each other meet up sort of like one night in the woods, right? And that's a way to sort of simplify what you were saying, and then that makes it, flow a little better. They get trapped under we can then say only to get trapped under a tree and resolve their differences. The Interlopers is a good example of situational irony because the men's cooperation. We need to say that the reader expects, right? That the men's cooperation will lead to their survival, but it leads to their deaths, and maybe it might be nice to say it leads to their deaths instead, right? Just to really drive home this idea of contradiction. The Interlopers by Saki has an example of situational irony at the end. The two men who hate each other are in rival families and have been trying to kill each other. They meet up in a forest and get caught under a tree together. Then they make friends. After that, they howl together to get men. After that, the text says. Yeah, so this repetitious after that, right? That should be an alert to you, right? We don't want to have after that, but that should notify you to the fact that you've got too much information here. When we summarize the scene just before the quote occurs, we really need just that, like just what's going on just in the moments before the quote occurs. You could say the two heads of rival families trapped under a tree together resolve their differences and decide to call for help, to cooperate, to call for help, right? And then you can say after that the text says, and then you can have who are they? Asked George, quickly straining his eyes to see what the other would gladly not have seen. Wolves, right? And then otherwise that would be really fine. So you're going to want to think about seriously revising all of this summary that you've got to just reflect what happens just before the ironic moment. The Interlopers is a great example of situational irony because the men die as a result of their cooperation, while the reader expects to survive as a result of their cooperation. So some obvious problem there. The situational irony in the Interlopers reinforces the theme, don't let your petty disputes blind you from the actual danger. An example of this could happen is that could happen is you are arguing to your friend. Usually it's you argue with your friend, right? Arguing with your friend. Whoa, not what I expected to do. Sorry about that. Can I undo? Will that fix that? Okay. Yes. Argue with your friend. Ignore the rest of the world when you step into the road and get hit by a car. Yeah, that would be a good example. But it's a little bit comical. You know what I mean? Is that terrible to say that it's kind of comical? And we're aiming for like a more serious sort of we're aiming for a more serious thing. And aside from that, we're actually trying to steer clear of specific examples in the end of the essay. And I know that's probably pretty contrary to what you've been taught. Usually we say, give me more details, give me more specifics. But here at the end, you definitely want to make sure that we are kind of just generalizing. What you want to say is like, don't let your petty disputes blind you from the actual danger. People can learn from this, or if people pay attention to George and Ulrich's tragedy, they can avoid meeting the same, a similar ironic fate or something like that. You know what I mean? So if you have any questions about specifically what I'm talking about there, feel free to call me over. If you have any questions about any of the comments on this paper, please feel free to call me over. I'd be happy to explain them to you. Other than that, please make sure that you address all the comments I gave you. I both wrote some things and I just said some things and didn't write them, but you're expected to address all of them. So please make sure that that happens. And again, I'm available for questions. Thank you so much for the effort you've put into this so far, Rowan. It looks really good. And I look forward to reading the final draft.